Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. I don't know where you're joining, but thank you for joining our webinar today focusing on long-term care insurance trends. I feel this is such an important topic today, as I feel it's related to everyone. And according to the estimate of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, around 69% of the U.S. population is expected to use long-term care services. However, a majority of them are receiving cares from unpaid caregivers, such as their family members and friends. We definitely see this as a challenge facing across the whole industry, but luckily we also seeing more and more efforts and collaborations across the whole industry. So as you can see from our agenda today, we hope to give you a different angle of the topics and the trends in this space. And we have great content for you today to hear from industry leaders, Unum, Middleman, and Prudential to share their views on the trends, and also emerging startups to share with you what their efforts is to tackling the problem. So, all right, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our very first section of the Corporate Roundtable, and Robert Eaton, who is our partner and also the moderator for this section. Robert is a principal and the consulting actuaries in Middleman's Tampa practice. He focuses on long-term care insurance, life insurance, and everything in between, such as combination life and health products. Robert also works in the pricing, valuation, and merge acquisition, and in predictive analytics. Robert will be joining with two awesome speakers and experts, Regina from Unum and Red from Prudential, to share with you what they're seeing in this long-term care trends. So now I would like to invite all our speakers, turn on your camera, and Robert, please take it over.
Thank you so much, Daisy. I really appreciate it. I agree with you. We are joined by an excellent panel here. I want to introduce the folks who are with me. Regina Fortin is a director of long-term care with Unum. Regina has over 20 years of insurance industry experience, and after realizing all the excitement that was happening in long-term care, she left the disability world and she hasn't looked back. Regina lives in South Portland, Maine, with her husband, appreciating local arts and live music and food, which is what we should all be doing if we live in South Portland. And Regina, we're very happy to have you here in the long-term care space, so thank you. We've got also joining us, Rhett Weiland is the Vice President of Long-Term Care Claims Strategy at Prudential Financial, where Rhett's been since 2019. Rhett's an experienced claims operations and strategy leader with a history of working in IT and the services industry, and I happen to know he's a recovering lawyer to boot. Rhett has strong financial professional skills in negotiation and sales and management, also has worked in disability and now in long-term care. Rhett also helped organize the Aging in Place track for the March 2022 Intercompany LTC Insurance Conference, the ILTCI conference. Regina and Rhett, thank you so much for joining me today.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Robert.
Glad to be here.
So let's get started. This is a panel about long-term care insurance industry trends. You know, tell me a little bit about what you see in your role, which you've been in for a number of years now. What are the kind of trends that matter to you today? Let me start off with you, Regina.
Sure. Yeah, I think probably not so much of a big surprise to hear would be emerging data analytics, I think, which has, been around for some time in maybe some other industries, product lines, but certainly coming forth in long-term care. It definitely has a multitude of different benefits when we kind of think about what data analytics can bring for us. It's definitely going to help our industry in understanding, claim trends, thinking about like future claim experiences, when to expect claims, when's that going to happen for us, how we can position ourselves for the future, duration of claims, how long they're going to last, maybe based on specific diagnoses and things like that. But certainly also economic and, it's going to bring for us economic and demographic data as well. We think about, from a carrier perspective, caregiver perspective, if we can understand better the care trajectory and how people age, we can intervene and provide resources to people, and positively influence their experience as well.
Yeah, I think that's something I've kind of caught from a few carriers within the industry. So I suspect your experience is not unique to you, and I think that's a really positive one for the long-term care industry, and kind of, as you alluded to, Regina, maybe some other sectors of insurance. I'm thinking of our friends over in PNC on the other side of the house. I think they've kind of been able to use data and analytics, to a degree that would probably impress us and me in particular. Let me turn it over to Rhett. In your role, Rhett, claims operation and strategy, what are some of the things that are coming up these days that you want to share with our audience? What are some trends we should know about?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. And Regina, completely agree with you on the utilization of data and predictive analytics to develop insights into what you can bring to the market for solutions. I think our perspective, Robert, is we really want to help people age healthily and extend right into their future years. A lot of the clinical data and studies and papers are showing that the aging process in part is accumulation of a lot of the life choices that we make as we kind of continue on our journey of living. And I think when we focus on what we can do to help healthy aging and improve long-term health outcomes, we're focused on data and science to find individuals who have a risk factor of some type, whether it's a chronic disease or maybe a risk factor as a lifestyle, and then try to get those individuals to modify or ultimately change their behavior to adopt a healthier lifestyle. Now, that is not going to work. Behavior change is difficult, as we all know. But if you can manifest some behavior change in some subset of the population, it reaps enormous benefits for both the individual and for the insurance carrier. And I think we're really focused on driving those kinds of outcomes and bringing technology, data, and solutions to bear to kind of focus on that.
Yeah, I think that's you're right in that it's a very big challenge, I think, for long-term care insurers when we talk about policyholder behavior. At the same time, the opportunity is really there with long-term care being it's a pretty catastrophic event. Daisy mentioned that there's quite a lot of folks. She mentioned over 50%. I think I've seen similar numbers who will have some kind of long-term care need in their future after they turn 65. And long-term care insurance really covers some of those catastrophic needs. If you can't do 2 of 6 of your activities of daily living, possibly you have advanced dementias or Alzheimer's. There are fewer people who kind of fall into that category, but as we know, if we can move the needle on even a portion of those, a small portion of those, it can make very big differences both to their own lives, policyholders or customers' lives, as well as to the financial success of long-term care insurance carriers. I am kind of curious about how this sort of flows to the bottom line. We are in business, and Regina, I'd like you to maybe talk about how data and analytics might help you all in the long run, might help Unum.
Yeah, so kind of reflecting back on that, we think about trying to understand the trends, like maybe claim trends, and kind of thinking about what does that future mean for us, even just preparing our staff right? How do we prepare for an influx of claims, or what does that look like right now? We don't necessarily have that data available to us. So, staffing from a staffing perspective, and even kind of thinking about, caregiver agencies, how they can staff appropriately for that as well. Thinking about the claims experience, how many claims are we getting from a staffing perspective, but also financially preparing for that. How do we prepare the funds for that as well? I think ultimately, as we think about data analytics, as an industry, we'll be well positioned to make informed decisions based on that real-time information. If we have the data analytics available to us, that real-time information and feedback, and that's something that we've yet been able to do, and that does certainly impact our the bottom line.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, those are, I think those are advancements, even 10 years ago, Regina, I think we would have been like, those are really too futuristic, but what you're talking about, I think is achievable, to carriers such as Unum and many others. Rhett, talk to me about, from your perspective, some of these advancements that you mentioned, some of these trends, how do they really matter to your business and to Prudential?
So again, I agree a lot with what Regina kind of facts she laid out. For us, it's, when you're a long-term care insurance company and you have policyholders that you have to pay a benefit for when they become eligible, for us, it's trying to move upstream from the claim event and helping to do, like, say, 3 or maybe 4 things that impact the bottom line for us. One is trying to avoid a claim that's the holy grail. So someone who was on track behaviorally, lifestyle-wise to have a claim, if you can help that individual avoid that claim, that's definitely a bottom line impact for us. If not avoid a claim, perhaps delay a claim, right? So get someone the support they need, engage in the solutions that benefit them, and the claim may not be possible to avoid, but if you can delay it for a while, that's also a bottom line impact. And then for those individuals who ultimately go on claim, and you captured it really well, people who go on a long-term care claim are in pretty bad shape. They have a minimum of 2 activity of daily living losses or severe cognitive impairment. If you can help that individual stay in their home in a lower cost of care, and so, which is what most individuals want who are on claim anyway, and avoid a higher facility cost, that's really good for the policyholder because it allows them to maximize their long-term care benefit into future years. And it's good for the insurance company because we're paying less and then hopefully driving down our cost of claim benefit, which in turn should help us in the long term on things like premium rate increases at the state level.
Yeah, you're alluding to some things that some baggage that's come with us from the last since HIPAA, even since 1996, where the definition of long-term care insurance is having a certain number of activities of daily living. You said at least 2 of 6. That kind of jogged my memory that we are in a way handicapped with some of those old structures for defining what long-term care insurance means and what it means to pay out benefits for long-term care. And some of the efforts I think of insurers today are along the lines of, well, by the time we get to a catastrophic long-term care claim, I mean, it's almost too late. People are in pretty bad shape. I think of my own grandmother who had a fall, was eligible to get into a facility and needed to be there for most of the rest of her life. And to the extent that insurers who have a stake in this, the health and the financial well-being of their policyholders, to the extent that insurers can provide some of that support prior to the catastrophic need for long-term care, I think they would like to, and hopefully that's what some of our panelists are going to discuss today, ways in which we can kind of create that ecosystem. So that's what gives me excitement about the long-term care insurance industry. We have kind of maybe 5 more minutes. I'm hoping each of you can talk to me about maybe the next, 3 to 5 years, at Unum, at Prudential. What's kind of next for your business model? What are the things that excite you about the future? And maybe I'll again kind of turn it back to Rhett.
Yeah, we're really focused on 2, I think, major sectors of our population: individuals who are already on claim and trying to coordinate services and solutions and integration with Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans that help them maximize the dollar value of their long-term care benefit, and in part, potentially use public and private money from those other plans, CMS, Medicare, and Medicare Advantage plans, to help offset some of the costs. So you're going to see from Prudential a major shift in the future to helping our policyholders on a claim really coordinate their entire level of care so that they can have the most successful outcomes. In the pre-claim space, we're really trying to move as far upstream as we can, right to healthy individuals, to get them engaged in activities of mental health, physical health, home safety, financial wellness, and care planning. And all of these verticals will be part of solutions, will be embedded in solutions we roll out through digital platform. And what I love about the plug and play arena here is that the techs and the startups and the entrepreneurial companies that are doing all of this work today bring all that capability, and Prudential's really interested in finding out what the newest and best of the solutions are that are out there. And we'd like to embed those in our pre-claim populations to help them stay healthier and happier and more independent for longer.
That is also what's excited me about Plug and Play. The first time I went on campus, I think it was 2018 or 2019, and met quite a lot of folks in this ecosystem. And back then it was called the LTC Tech Summit. Really neat environment there, and I totally agree with you, Rhett, on what they're fostering. Regina, maybe you can tell me, what are you excited about at Unum? You know, and maybe in line with what Rhett's doing. Otherwise, tell me about the next 3 to 5 years and what you're kind of looking forward to.
Sure. Similar to Rhett and the folks over at Prudential, we are certainly focused on pre-claim support, and more so creating and maintaining relationships with the folks who haven't yet found the need to file the claim, and really kind of, building and maintaining those relationships. We've got individuals who, purchased a policy 20 years ago, and, the only relationship right now that we have with them is through a billing perspective, right? And so we really want to make sure that, we kind of create that relationship outside of that billing process. So proactively providing policy education, concierge services with them, helping to kind of promote that healthy, a healthy, body and mind. That way, Rhett has kind of already spoken to this, and I don't want to, regurgitate what he's already said, but, how do we delay a claim? How do we help them to age in place in their homes, which is, obviously advantageous for those individuals. We know that folks don't, they want to stay at home, right? They don't want to go into a facility. That helps our customers, it helps families, and it also helps us as a carrier. So it's building and maintaining those relationships outside of the billing process. And it's also providing, support to them to help them to stay at home and to understand what their policy is. That's going to help us in a positive customer experience, and also is consistent with our Unum brand. And it's also outside of that, in the next 3 to 5 years for Unum, it's really kind of reworking our claims experience. So when somebody is at Unum and has filed a claim, we're still, hate to admit it, we're still in a paper claim process world. So we're reworking that. We're reworking, how we actually process a payment. So, we're looking to see how can we get outside of that as well.
I mean, I couldn't agree more with you on the things that are exciting coming up next for our industry. 2 things you said, Regina, really struck a chord with me. First is that, we have had, as a long-term care insurance industry, we've had a history of treating policyholders as very transactional. And I think a lot of that's because the companies that are offering this insurance are mostly financial institutions, and that's the business that they're in. And collecting premiums and paying the claims we should, that's the business that large long-term care insurance companies have been in. I think as we kind of creep closer to like peak claim ages for the big chunk of traditional long-term care insurance policies, where sales kind of peaked in 2005, we're coming up on the next 10 or 15 years on looking at a lot more claims than we are premiums. And the impetus for us as an industry to best service those claims is really kind of creeping up. So I do hope we make that shift from only transactional to incorporating a lot of the ideas that you, Rhett, and Regina have shared with us today. How can we best serve our customer as, a person? Their health does not start and end with the fact that they're eligible for our, claim payment. In fact, they've been needing maybe some care in advance of that. And what we have today with the panelists coming up, that Daisy, I'm going to hand it over to Daisy in just a minute for her to introduce them, is a group of companies that are there to kind of help support that ecosystem where the informal caregiver will come in and provides a lot of care before formal care is provided, and long-term care reimbursements are needed. The informal caregiver, whether that be a neighbor or a relative, a sibling, a child, that's a big way that that's a big way that people receive care prior to those kind of catastrophic needs. And then all of the data that we need in order to help support that. Regina, you alluded to some new data sources there, and we talk a lot about those in the long-term care industry. And so I think we're going to hear more about that today. So I do want to thank you, Regina from Unum, Rhett from Prudential. Really appreciate your speaking on this panel with me today. I am going to turn it over to Daisy, who's going to introduce the rest of the folks.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you, Robert, Regina, and Rhett. This is very insightful. So now we have a quick poll. If you would like to connect it with Robert from Milliman, please click the yes, and then we will follow up with you after our events today. And I couldn't agree more with all our panelists, and I think it's a great discussion. I feel very insightful, inspired, thinking about the future and in my family's future, and then being taken care of at home, and how we can achieve better health and live longer efficiently, more cost efficiently, and also health happily. So thank you so much for our panelists today. All right, so now we hear from our corporate side of their pain point and challenges and opportunities. Now we're going to move from another angle is our startup set. So I would like to introduce our next speaker, Ali, the CEO of Tcare. And Tcare is the only evidence-based family caregiver support solution that has proven return on investment outcomes for risk-bearing health and long-term care insurers. They partner with LTCI carriers on a risk-based partnership model and have been successfully working with even other startups around the ecosystem and creating even more longer value chain for the whole long-term care. So I would like to pass it to Ali. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today, and stage is yours.
Thank you for setting the stage. My name is Ali Ahmadi, CEO of Tcare. We are a company that is based out of St. Louis, Missouri. We have been about 6 years in the making. For 6 years. We are now up to about 168 employees, and partnered with some really cool and progressive organizations. And so what we do is we talk about caregiver burnout, which essentially, in our definition of caregiver, this is the son, the daughter, the family member, the neighbor. These are unpaid, also known as informal family caregivers that are taking care of our elder loved ones and the population. Tcare is a platform that partners with risk-bearing organizations. When we say risk, these are organizations that pay for either nursing home, assisted living, or any type of caregiver burnout risk that have claims. Or we also partner with self-insured employers that when their employees that are family caregivers burn out, specifically the FMLA usage and absentee management systems that we partner with their absentee management programs and carry the risk. Now, what exactly is it that we do? Tcare is a platform that is the only evidence-based CMS, Medicaid and Medicare approved federally accredited organization that provides a psychosocial solution to the family caregiver and predicts their burnout risk, which we have understood to become the very first leading indicator of a facility placement of an elder. Now, what exactly is it that we do? We conduct a psychosocial assessment of family members, engage them, and provide the right resource at the right time, right place to prevent their burnout. In our industry, the biggest buzzword that has become known as the social determinants of health, or SDOH, is essentially managing the resources to families so that me as a family caregiver, the whole impetus behind creating Tcare was 6 years ago, my wife and I became caregivers to my mother-in-law that was diagnosed with stage 4 lymphoma cancer living with us. And what the industry has typically measured is ADL, IADL risk. And the family caregiver, which has become the most forgotten stakeholder in our healthcare system, is essentially that leading indicator of risk, facility placement risk. And so what we are doing is managing the psychosocial burnout of family caregivers. We're measuring it. We identified as the leading indicator of facility placement and institutionalization of our elder loved ones. And we identify the risk, we stratify the risk, we then manage and mitigate the risk, and then we continuously monitor the risk. How we do this is through a different platform that essentially becomes the clinical model of what we call identity discrepancy, which we're now up to 92 peer-reviewed published papers on. And identity discrepancy, which is essentially our proprietary secret sauce, is the transition of role from a son, daughter, or spouse role into a family caregiver role. Whereas in early stages of caregiving, I'm 90% son, 10% caregiver. Towards later stages of caregiving, I become 90% caregiver, 10% son. In this stage of shift of identity from a son to a caregiver role, there's different risk factors of that psychosocial burnout that has nothing to do with the physical needs of the elder. This is not the ADL, IDL, or even chronic or disease condition. It's that psychosocial impact that I have as a son transitioning into a caregiver role. And so, it's not the cooking and cleaning that I had to do for my mother-in-law or the tactical caregiving. It's the first time I had to bathe my mother-in-law. That emotional impact, not the physical side, but the emotional impact that had on our psychosocial setting, that stress and depression levels, that becomes the leading indicator of facility placement. And so in my wife and I's situation, what we thought we needed in our caregiving journey was respite services, home care services. That's what every caregiver thinks they need, is home care and respite. While those things can be great resources, we see them as temporary painkillers. They're a Tylenol, not an antibiotic. The antibiotic is what is the actual root cause of that caregiver's burnout versus just a respite, which is a temporary painkiller, and the family's stress and depression, that family caregiver stress and depression level is right back in the same position it was prior to providing respite services. So, in my wife and I situation, we thought we needed respite or home care services. When we went through the Tcare algorithms, what the system identified as our root cause to burnout, and the intervention that we needed was marriage counseling. Because our risk factor of placing my mother-in-law into a nursing home was the toll caregiving was taking on our marriage. That's what had led us to start thinking about that facility placement. And so not only did the system identify that as a resource in the care plan for the caregiver support, but it also identified it 3 blocks away from our house. There's a local church that every Saturday morning does free family counseling sessions, made that referral into that. And so we don't think of these things as that SDOH risk factor. We serve different populations, caregivers of aging and dementia populations, with caregivers of the developmentally disabled populations. We recently partnered with a national managed care organizations and rolled out nationally with preventing the burnout of foster parents in the foster care with the risk-bearing entities in foster care. And we have military and self-directed caregiver burnout, the burnout of formal caregivers that we have shown that in our rollout, on average, we delay and divert nursing home placement on average of 21 months and reduce long-term care utilization of services both on the incidence and on the utilization side by 20%. That led Tcare to becoming legislatively mandated in Washington State's long-term care program, the Medicaid side. So what exactly is our product? We are a multi-product company. It's not just one software or one system. We have a product that is mobile first, that engages the family caregivers. We're partnered with really cool companies, including Caregiving.com, including Pilot Bird, including some of the ones that you're gonna hear about today, that engage the family caregiver through our Tcare Assist platform. We are the assessment platform that identifies what is the root cause of that caregiver's burnout. And then through our national database that has become the largest SDOH repository and curated network of resources for the family caregiver, we connect through our backend closed loop system through Tcare Connect to resources that are mostly free or extremely low cost resources there. And then all this data through our population health analytics engine is then identified and is continuously monitored to identify risk, stratify the risk, mitigate the risk, and continuously monitor the risk. So we deploy with minimal disruption or as a standalone system to different insurance organizations. We don't have to integrate. We're a standalone service. And then we, through our certified care management team, what we call our Tcare specialists, we then become the system to manage the care management of the caregiver. This is not to be confused with the care management of the elder. We are not competing with care management systems of the elder. We are specifically there to manage the care management of the caregiver and then deploy through our platform and resource in different areas. So we then partner with different organizations on claim side, the core side, and then the SDOH input side, and then deploy some really cool companies like Caregiving.com and some of the other ones that are here. So who are our partners? We are partnered with state, federal, and state government agencies. For example, New York Office for Aging, Washington State's Department of Social Services, Alaska, Hawaii, now deployed in Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Texas, through the government Department on Aging side or Department of Elder Affairs. We then partner with, we have organizations that we've partnered with on the LTSS long-term care side, United, Cigna, Anthem, Molina. We're rolled out in Medicaid and Medicare health plans and some commercial. We then are partnered with long-term care insurance or supplemental health insurance and employer benefit organizations like AFLAC, GTL. Aon is one of our largest partner, Prudential. Unum just became our recent partner last week. As a matter of fact, Marco Ferraro was right here at this conference that we had breakfast with. So we are, and then we deploy with area agencies on aging. We're now across about 150 states. 150 area agencies on aging across the 50 states. So what exactly is it that we do? Our analytics engine identifies, specifically targets different resources at the different places at different times. This is one of our product lines, which is the analytics engine that identifies the patterns and trends across the caregiver and care receivers by race, by gender, by income levels, by employment status in different areas, and then identifies the geo-based risk, deploying different resources for the elder care, senior care side at the right time, right place, and then based on patterns and trends across the caregiver's relationship with the care recipient. Because if Daisy or Robert here is taking care of mom with dementia versus him taking care of father-in-law with Parkinson's, what are the patterns and trends across the specific resources that he needs across the different insurance categories, and then specifically target then disease-based risk, identifying in the different disease categories, what are the patterns and trends to identify that risk of that caregiver burnout, which in turn creates our analytics engine of what we call ITP, the intention to place. So we are able to extract within a specific closed block system, extract the specific caregivers that we are predicting that are 12 months away from placing their loved one into an institutional facility, and then identify at a category level, and then specifically down to the provider level, which resources are increasing, decreasing, or stabilizing that long-term care claims risk. So for example, let's just say companion services. We then go down to the provider level of, let's say, Visiting Angels in Evanston, Illinois, that we referred 15 caregivers to, family caregivers to. Did it actually lead to lowering, maintaining, or elevating that claims risk on that side? So identifying down to the provider level in these categories of SDOH, transportation, meal services, or different areas, down to the provider level, which resources at what time, what place are actually leading to the decreased claim side, so that we prevent or delay and divert that long-term care claims risk in the different families. Anyway, thank you all for having me. I don't know, Daisy, if at the end you want to do questions, or if anybody has any questions, my email is ali@tcare.ai, and you can also go on our website. And thank you all for having me.
Thank you, Ali. Yes, like I said, if you want to connect with Ali, please also, another way is quickly just click yes on the poll, and then we will definitely follow up to connect you with Ali and then their team, the Tcare team, so you can have a further discussion around that. But I couldn't agree with you more, Ali. I was a caregiver to my mom too, and then I totally feel all the burnout and stress while, taking care of every aspect of who we're taking care of too. So it's very important also to empower all the caregivers and to take care of themselves, to prevent any potential claims and burnout in the long run. So thank you so much, Ali, to share your solutions. And now, all right, now we're gonna move into a fast speed dating time, and then we're gonna have 3 awesome startups from a different angle, and then to tackling these problems about long-term care and giving different solutions to our partners and to the whole industry. So let's welcome the first one, Caregiving.com. Caregiving.com is a premier online community for family caregivers. They help families and friends navigate the caregiving experience through peer support and educational resources. So now we're welcome to Mike, who is the CEO of the Caregiving.com, and to showcase what they help and empowering the caregivers.
All right, thanks everybody for having me. As Daisy said, I'm Mike Aitzani. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Caregiving.com. Our belief at Caregiving.com is that scalable and trusted family caregiver support really has the power to positively shift society and truly impact our healthcare systems. And not only that, I think speaking to the theme in this call, if you're trying to improve bottom line, or avoid a claim, delay a claim, stay in the home, as Rhett mentioned, there is no more important audience than that family caregiver audience. 75% of the time, it's those individuals that are there. They're influencing decisions. They're influencing adherence to the care plan. So if you want to drive engagement, if you want to drive outcome improvement, you've got to include that group in the conversation. You've got to meaningfully engage and invest in that audience. And that's what we at Caregiving.com, I think, enable. So just to speak to sort of how we got to this space and sort of our experience, in 2020, my company Carely, which was focused on communication technology to help family caregivers communicate with their long-term care providers, we actually acquired the brand and the business Caregiving.com. The reason we did that is we saw sort of a really, really big opportunity to expand our offering to really create a more broad stroke approach to supporting family caregivers nationally and globally now. So we acquired that brand in 2020 and really have productized that site using sort of our technology experience and then applying that to sort of the brand that Caregiving.com is and it's sort of online ecosystem that it already had created. So what does Caregiving.com do? So we really focus on 4 main areas of family caregiver support. There's a lot of family caregiver tools out there. Ahmadi and Tcare are a great example of that. We consider those solutions very synergistic to us, but how are we unique? Well, 4 main areas we focus. Tailored user experience. So I'll talk about all of these in a second, but a tailored user experience is incredibly important to family caregivers. A really robust and high-level library of information and training content. Hyper-local engagement, right? Family caregiving is a national epidemic, but it's a very local challenge for the caregivers who are experiencing it. And then lastly, innovative technology. How are we using technology to create a much more scalable solution that can be applied to large organizations and large populations around the country? So a little bit about that tailored user experience. This is fairly simple, straightforward. We take in a ton of data about our individual users, not only in their profile creation, what are their challenges, what's their care recipient's profile look like, but also how are they interacting with the site? What articles are they reading? What articles are they saving, sharing? We're taking all that data in to create a more tailored experience for that individual user. So think Netflix, think Spotify, think your Apple Music subscription. The usage of that platform is then going to define the experience you have as an individual user. That's incredibly important to family caregivers because most times they don't understand what it is that they need. Ali did a perfect example of that. The thing that's driving toward that burnout scenario isn't always the stereotypical thing you think a family caregiver is looking for, whether it's respite or otherwise. One of the ways we're able to tailor that user experience is through our content strategy. We have the largest library of content and articles and training content online today for family caregivers. Huge catalog of content. We also have one of the largest active contributor lists in caregiving today, 55 plus active contributors who are writing content, producing podcasts, creating online videos with our team. We are a media company in all shapes and sizes, but it's taking that content and really building a robust library that not focuses broadly on caregiving topics, but really niches down. So Ali mentioned a couple of those areas: foster care, IDD, severe mental illness. We're creating really deep libraries of content to support those family caregivers as well, so that we can, honestly support the largest and most diverse set of family caregivers that exist out there in our community. A huge content library is nothing unless we've got the technology to be able to, again, tailor that user experience. So we've got a really sophisticated content management system on the back end that tags and categorizes all of the content really to a finite degree so that we can get the right article to the right caregiver at the right time. That's incredibly important for our user experience. And it's what's really baked into sort of that technology side in the business. Hyperlocal. One of the things we know is that a caregiver in St. Louis has different needs than a caregiver in Washington State, and they need to be able to get resources and tools to them in their community. We've placed either current or formerly family caregivers in communities all across the country. We've got 75 of these folks who act as liaisons to our company and a connection point to caregivers locally in their area. Really excited about this program and how it plays into what ultimately we're trying to do. And then lastly, how do we work with partners? Caregiving.com is a product at the end of the day, and it can be deployed by our partners, whether it be a payer, an MCO, a long-term care insurance provider, an employer. They can adopt Caregiving.com and actually deliver it to their populations as a service. Not only are their users going to get access to their brand and their organization, but to speak to that data side, we're going to be providing a really rich data set back to that provider. What does that underlying caregiver population look like? What are their needs? What articles, what services are they clicking on, reading the most of, so that they can make informed decisions about where to invest, where to, pay for services. In addition to that, we're integrating with vendors, partners like Tcare, so that our data can inform their solutions as well. So really interested in creating feedback loops, closed feedback loops, so that our partners and their partners have access to our unique data set that is sort of purely focused on that family caregiver. Again, who we work with. So lastly, I'll just leave you with this. I'm really glad, Rhett spoke and sort of laid the groundwork for this. But again, if you're trying to avoid a claim, delay a claim, stay in the home, have a member stay in the home, you gotta factor in family caregivers into that. And that's why we believe this is sort of a massive business opportunity and a social imperative for our country. So thank you guys very much. Thanks, Daisy, for inviting me. I welcome any interest at all to talk more.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, and then we have another poll. I know it's a short introduction, but this is an opportunity to further connect with caregiving.com. Please click yes if you would like to learn more. And I certainly can tell from Mike's your setup with the microphone, everything, you're definitely for content. You're professional for content. But thank you so much. And all right, I think now we're gonna move to our next startup, which is Pilotbird. Pilotbird empowers insurance teams to better score risk, engage customers, and detect claims fraud by analyzing social data points. So let's welcome Evgeny and to showcase about Pilotbird.
Hi there, my name is Evgeny Alexandrov. I'm founder and CEO of Pilotbird. I'm excited to share with our friends at Plug and Play InsurTech claims monitoring solution for long-term care claims. Share my screen now. We're on a mission to eliminate fraud and abuse in long-term care claims. And the reason why is because insurance fraud costs everyone. With 10% of all claims being ineligible, carriers pay out more than $80 billion annually to claims that may be ineligible and have to reserve more than $150,000 per claim in capital reserves. At Pilotbird, we work with 5 Fortune 500 carriers in the US and Canada, and every engagement we've done has exceeded expectations based on predefined metrics. So what do we do at Pilotbird? Pilotbird is using online activity such as social data, search data, marketing data, and others to create a comprehensive profile on the claimant, picking up information such as changes in a job, active lifestyle, excess travel, and many, many others. The outcome that we drive towards at Pilotbird is this, where somebody enjoys active lifestyle while claiming long-term care. They may be playing golf on the weekend, but continue to draw down on the claims and payouts. We've been able to demonstrate 7 times improvement in capturing ineligible and malignant claims. We have validated this approach across other products as well. In fact, special investigation units rely constantly on social media to pick up these signals, and it's part of their main toolkit. We also, at Pilotbird, prioritize with facts, without bias. That's driven by our solution. Let me share with you what it is. So on the claimant, as an examiner, they come to this portal. In this portal, they could see the prior submissions that they've done on the claims, their risk profile of each individual claimant, how many findings we have on that specific claimant for suspicious activity, as well as submit new claims by even providing specific physical limitation class that would inform our system the tolerance for suspicious activity. So the report that each examiner would see would look something very similar to this. In this report, they will see the presence of the individual social media platforms, where else their phone and email of the claimant been registered, the identity of the family members, in case there's some information posted on the family members' social media profiles, as well as findings. And in these findings, the system demonstrates those activity online that may be suspicious. So for example, this claimant may be standing up, whereas their policy does not supports them on sitting and compensating only when they have limitation for sitting down, as well as this information such as them being traveling and having many different locations where they live or how many phone numbers they have, and onwards. So that's a brief example of what the platform looks like at Pilebird. Let me continue with my presentation. It's easy to do business with Pilebird. We can run a pilot or do sample claims for you. It could be a one-time data swap and all the way to active involvement with your fraud examiners and special investigation unit. And the data that we require is quite simple: name, zip code, phone number, and email, if those are even available. If not, we'll do with phone number, with name, age, and zip code. And I would be remiss not to mention that we are SOC 2 compliant. We take our information security seriously. We've been audited by outside auditors for the validity of our infrastructure. And I would like to wrap up saying that we are on a mission to eliminate fraud and abuse in long-term care claims, and I would love to continue the conversation with you. Thank you.
If you would like to learn more about Pilebird, please click yes on the polls, and then we will definitely make you connected. All right. And very soon, we're going to move to our last startups today is Brook Health. Brook is a remote patient monitoring and health coaching platform that helps people manage their chronic conditions. Let's welcome Oren, the CEO and co-founder of Brook.
Hi, everybody. Nice to meet you. My name is Oren. I'm the co-founder and CEO for Brook Health. We do remote care management as a service, and I want to tell you a little bit about it. So the idea behind Brook was we wanted to be able to provide individualized chronic care at the home to people. We clearly understand that in order to do that, on the one hand side, the patient need to really feel that they have a full suite of services around them, being able to look at what is happening with their data at home, being able to provide recommendations and nudges and reminders on the go. But on the other hand, the relationship with their existing primary care provider is really important. And what we wanted was to be able to build this full service remote network, but retain the relationship that these patients have with their providers and be able to support that relationship and empower it such that patients will feel very comfortable. So, the idea of how to provide care for people at the home with chronic condition has existed for a while. The main problem is that for a very long period of time, the only ability of providers to really intervene at the home and still be able to provide the service was to call people back into the office and provide the service right there and send them home with instructions of what to do. About 3 years ago, CMS, as the governing body for Medicare, have made the decision to start reimbursing for services that will be provided at home. So for the first time, primary care providers have now been able to intervene in the lives of people with hypertension, diabetes, chronic heart failure at the home and be able to get reimbursed for the service. The main challenge with this has always been time, or I should say lack of time. Primary care providers are some of the busiest people working in the system today, and their panels of patients are very, very large. So the ability for a primary care provider to take on one more task and to do one more service is really, really constrained by their very, very busy day-to-day. And so how do you solve this problem that on the one hand side, clearly people with chronic conditions should be better treated at the home, and on the other hand side, primary care providers wouldn't necessarily have the time to provide this service? Well, this is where Brook comes in. So, at Brook, we basically focused on the three pieces of this puzzle that need to all come together. The first one is that in order to provide the service at the home, you need to have devices that will be able to track the information, the blood sugar, the blood pressure, the weight, and be able to provide this information back such that you can analyze it and really then understand what to do. So connected devices in the home is something that Brook provides, and I'll talk about that in just a second. The main part of the system is the Brook AI. Brook AI is a platform that basically has two sides to it. On the patient side, we track the information. We know what is the care protocol that has been provided by this primary care provider to the patient. And so we are able to not only collect the information and analyze the information, but we're also able to provide the feedback and provide more and more nudging and recommendations and understanding of how to really meet that care protocol at the home well. The other side of that same system is the ability to provide a very holistic picture of what is going on with that patient to the provider. Part of this picture is about how are they doing at home, what data is being collected, and how can they do better. And we deliver all that to the providers through a very easy UI. The third part of this is our nurse coach team, which is able to help implement all these services at the home and provide the feedback both to the patient and the provider alongside the Brook tools. Brook system today connects with well over 150 devices out there. And so we are able to connect with the right devices in order to deliver the right services across multiple conditions. And the Brook AI piece is what allows us to really differentiate ourselves. We use a very asynchronous way to talk to people. We use chat, and we combine the powers of AI and human as they come together to basically chat with the patients and provide the ongoing feedback. All this work basically results in one of the, I think, highest retention rates for a digital medical service today in the country. Over 73% of the people that will start the journey with Brook at the beginning of the year will be on the system at the end of the year, which means that we have provided the right experience, we have created the right level of engagement, and that yields in both retention rates and the ability of these people to ultimately get better. I hope you enjoyed listening to this, and if you'd like to talk more about Brook, please give us a shout.
Thank you, Oren. Now is the opportunity for you to click yes to connect with the Brook Health, and then we will definitely follow up with you. All right, so time flies. We're almost finished our events, but we would like to remind you we have more for you even just in October. We have AgTech events talking about how to evaluate agriculture risks on October 5th. And this will be a virtual webinar and then we co-host with our AgTech team to talk about agriculture technology involvement. And on October 11th, you don't want to miss this because this is our D&I focused topic about how insurance carriers distribution along the value chain and how we could, as a whole industry, insurance and financial services, can provide better services and an outreach to diversified clients. And last not the least, Innovation Link in New York. This is an in-person for our corporates, partners together to get around across different verticals and then together in this whole setting and to talk about innovation, best practice, and then how you can boost innovation within your organization and working with startups. So remember the date, October 12th, and it's a Wednesday in New York. If you would like to more information on that, please contact your partner success managers. We will definitely have more content to share with you about the events. All right, thank you so much for staying with us until now. And then we have a quick poll to let you tell us, how do you like this event? I would like to thank all the speakers today from our corporates and startups. Thank you all, and thank you all for your efforts to making the long-term care more meaningful and helpful to every individual. Yes, and let us know how you like it, and then we will definitely stay tuned. Thank you for your time.